This is Michael Luchies from After School, back for another edition of the After School App Social Change with Technology interview series. Today, I'm joined by Buddy Project founder and president and CEO, Gabby Frost. Gabby, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me to this. I'm really excited to talk about Buddy Project and mental health.
Awesome. So let's start there. What is the Buddy Project?
Buddy Project is a nonprofit organization that I founded to prevent suicide by pairing people as buddies and raising awareness for mental health. It first started off as an initiative on social media to give people a positive peer support system. I got the idea when I was in ninth grade. I was 15 years old. I just noticed that a lot of people came online to find supportive communities, and I had been one of those people myself. So I decided that it would be a good idea to give people a way to get rid of that awkward step of finding someone that likes the same interests as them and just pair them up with someone that has something in common and is around the same age. One of the main reasons why I feel like a lot of people kind of went online to find the community was because they were going through mental illness, and I knew that I wanted Buddy Project to not only focus on giving people a positive peer support system, but also focus on raising awareness for mental health. And the first 2 years, it kind of was just Twitter and Instagram account, and then in 2015, we had become a nonprofit organization, and since then, we've been fundraising money for mental health facilities around the United States and have also been trying to do some fundraising events and other things to have more of a in-person presence.
Great. And why was this a subject that you were personally passionate about and interested in pursuing?
So I really became passionate about mental health when I was around 14 years old. I was in 8th grade, so about a year before I started Buddy Project. My best friend at the time had told me she was going through self-harm and suicidal thoughts, and I didn't really know much about mental health. The only other time I really heard about it was recently to when that occurred, when Demi Lovato had released her documentary about going through recovery and going to a rehabilitation center. So I knew I needed to look up more information about it, and once I did, I just wanted to keep learning more. At the time, my best friend and I were both super active on Twitter and other social media sites. Both of us were like obsessed with One Direction, so we had found a community online that felt the same way about us as we did about One Direction, since a lot of people that we went to school with didn't really feel that way. We met a lot of people from around the world, and we noticed that a lot of them were going through mental health conditions. We decided to just support people whenever people tweeted out things about maybe suicide or that they just needed support, and we rallied for other people to do the same. It was one night in 2013 when I was just scrolling through my timeline on Twitter at like 1 a.m, and I just saw that there was 3 people I followed that were thinking of suicide, and I knew I had to do something to make a difference, so I decided to just like think until I could think of an idea, and that's really what gave me the idea to create Buddy Project. And I just wanted to create a simple yet effective way for people to have a positive peer support system. Buddy Project, I never really envisioned to become an alternative to therapy. I don't think it is suited to be that. I think it's just a great way for people to either find a supportive community or to kind of take those small steps in the beginning to realizing that they need help and just figuring out what exactly they need to do in order to receive mental health care. And that's what I really want Buddy Project to do, is to give people that strength to seek professional help, not be the one to give it.
And speaking of steps, what steps did you take to start Buddy Project?
So in the beginning, when it was just a social media movement, I had created a Twitter account and Instagram account. I also created a Google form that people would fill out to sign up for Buddy. In the first 12 hours, I think, over 3,000 people signed up. So I kind of was like, okay,
Wow.
This isn't going to be like a little side thing I do when I come home from school every day. Like, I'm going to need to put more time into this. So, like, over the first couple years, like, I guess 2.5 years, it was really just Twitter-based. Like, I was the most active on Twitter, and I had used a site that I think, like, one of my teachers used to host the buddy pairings. So it was kind of run in a way that I wouldn't consider professional now, but, I mean, at the time, it was the best, like, resource for me to use as a 15, 16-year-old high school student. But once we became a nonprofit, I had found a website to host an actual website on for Buddy Project, and on our site now we have the form to sign up directly on there. We also have the Buddy pairings directly on there, and it has just made the whole Buddy Project experience, I feel, a lot more easier, not just for me, but for everyone else. Becoming a nonprofit has made everything change a lot. I feel like now I have a solid path of where I want to go with everything. And it's also helped me take steps to actually make a difference in the mental health community. Instead of just tweeting now, I'm trying to raise money for mental health facilities and just really start a change with schools and how kids are educated about mental health and things like that.
Something I'm really curious about, how do you balance your time? This sounds so time-consuming, and I know you're working on other things as well, including going through school. How do you balance your time?
Sometimes I don't really know. I think, like, at this point, I'm just very good at knowing, like, when to put time into what. Throughout high school, I wasn't really involved in much because my high school, I was, like, on the border of the district, so I didn't really go to school a lot because it was, like, 20 minutes away from where I lived. So I wasn't involved in much after-school activities. So I really got to devote a lot of time after high school to Buddy Project, and in college, it's definitely been the most difficult because now it's like I can have class at night and I can have more activities since I'm involved in more college, since I'm living on campus and not commuting or anything. So being able to balance that can be hard at times. And I mean, it's not the best thing to do, but a lot of the times if I'm in class and it's like I'm going over something I know, or just I can, like, pay attention and work on Buddy Project, I'll do that. And I feel like that's really helped a lot, being able to multitask in class, because I'll be able to work on certain things for the Instagram, so, like, the different graphics, or I'll just be able to think of tweets and I'll tweet out during the day. And doing all the other stuff that involves more time, I try to do at night, or if I go home for the weekend, work on it with my mom, who's the treasurer of the board of Buddy Project, and she does a lot with our fundraising recently too. So I'll try to do that when I'm home or on the weekend so that I have more time to devote to it, since I have homework and other stuff to do during the week. But, I mean, recently it's definitely been the toughest. I had different time periods this year where I just really felt overwhelmed with school, and it was really affecting how much time I put into Buddy Project. So I let everyone know I was taking a mental health break because I felt like it was almost hypocritical to not even say, like, that's why I was inactive. It's like I want these people following Buddy Project to know they can take a mental health break if they need it. And I feel like by me sharing that with everyone, it's the most responsible thing I could possibly do in that kind of time, or in that situation. So I really hope that by me being vocal about that, other people start to see, like, even people like me who are devoting time to mental health need to take time from advocating for mental health to focus on their mental health.
How can somebody know they need to take, or they should consider taking a mental health break? I think that's a great topic. It's something that I've never done for myself. How would you recommend somebody know that they should take a mental health break?
One of the biggest signs, at least for me, is that I have really no creativity going on. So I'll just, like, be in kind of a slump where I can't think of, like, anything to do. Like, I either don't want to do anything with, like, graphic design for Buddy Project, or I just don't want to think of like tweets, or I'll just be in a state of mind where I just want to like just lay and do nothing basically. And I feel like that's one of the biggest signs for a lot of people, is just when you feel like doing nothing at all. And that's definitely a hard thing to deal with, especially for me, since I'm one of those people that always wants to be busy and I like filling up my time with different activities. I never like doing the same thing all the time. So that's always a big sign for me. It happened for me, my last like huge mental health break I needed to take was in the fall. I had just started school again, and just being back in school, because I had spent last summer really working full-time on Buddy Project. Going back to school and not being able to do that, I felt like having to kind of be back in that mode really just kicked my ass. And I just really like didn't know what to do at that point. And it was really tough, and I just knew I needed to take a mental health break and just focus on making sure I got enough sleep every night, and making sure I got all my work done, and making sure I ate 3 meals a day, and just really making sure I met all my basic needs before I focused on anything else.
And then this taking a mental health break, is it reducing the other commitments and daily responsibilities? Is it completely shutting them off? What does that look like for you?
When I was on a mental health break for the fall, I didn't really do much other than just kind of, I mean, I went on my computer and I went on my phone still, but it was kind of like I was really going on YouTube to watch videos and just do things that didn't require a lot of mental effort, and I went to class and everything. But I mean, I still tried to give in a little time a day to Buddy Project. I didn't want it to completely be inactive, and I just knew that I had to just focus more time on myself than anything, and that was really tough at first because, like I said, I'm someone that always wants to be doing something, and having my creative juices sucked out because of school was really hard to deal with.
And then with Buddy Project, obviously you've created a really large following around this. What do you feel like has been the reason why, the number one key to your success so far?
It's like a super simple thing, but the fact that I kept going was really what moved me to just have more success. Like, I had a lot of times in the beginning, especially, that I had just thought, wow, like, what is next? Like, I can't envision, like, this moving forward. And I really just pushed myself to keep going and just keep putting out content, keep pairing buddies, keep trying to improve the program. And without that, I definitely think Buddy Project wouldn't be where it is today. And I'm glad that me pushing on happened, because if I would have succumbed to people saying, like, you can't make a difference, you're 15 years old, it would have definitely made Buddy Project not go forward at all.
Now, I know that neither of us here are mental health professionals, but what do you believe, from some of your experiences, what do you believe are some of the keys, I guess, that us as a society need to tap into in order to prevent suicide?
I definitely think the biggest key is education. We need to educate the general public on the warning signs of suicide and what they can do to support someone with suicidal thoughts. Without education, I feel like nothing can get done. If we don't tell people what the facts are about mental health and suicide, they're not going to know any better. The stigma is not going to be erased. People aren't going to really understand what mental health is. And I just really feel like education is the first step we need to take, and it's a step that needs to be taken going forward for mental health and suicide awareness.
And what are some ways that somebody listening could take that step towards educating themselves on this topic?
What I remember doing when I was younger, when I was trying to realize like what my friend was going through and just learn more about it, I had gone on websites like NAMI and Mental Health America and the National Institute on Mental Health and read articles on there, because they're all done done by professionals. So looking at those resources, I feel like really helped me understand more about different mental illnesses and just mental health in general. And I mean, there's even books out there that talk about mental health, which I personally didn't read, but I know there are a lot that really cover that topic pretty well. So I feel like if people want to take that step, it's definitely finding online resources and then reading things written by people with mental illness and even professional work if you're interested in that as well.
Now, within the topic of mental health, there's a lot of misunderstanding or just lack of information out there, or maybe it's the people that are just not seeking the information that they need. What do you feel like are the most misunderstood aspects of our mental health?
I definitely feel like something that is misunderstood is that not everyone has mental health, when in reality, everyone has mental health, whether you are in a good mental state or a bad mental state. Everyone has to deal with it, and I feel like a lot of people think that just people with mental illness have mental health, and that's not correct at all. And I feel like it damages a lot of people because they think they're immune to anything happening to their mental state, especially men, I feel, because a lot of men think that they aren't allowed to feel things and they're not allowed to show emotion, and toxic masculinity is very damaging to a lot of people. And just the fact that men think they can't feel things, I feel, is another big misconception about mental health and is really killing a lot of men today, especially men in the spotlight. Like, a lot of men are dying by suicide, like Anthony Bourdain and Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell, and just so many more people. And it's, I feel, an epidemic, and no one's really addressing men's mental health at all.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. A good documentary on that subject is called The Mask You Live In. I believe it's still available on Netflix, and that's a really good documentary on that exact topic. I really appreciate your views and all you've done to spread awareness of this topic through your organization and on social media. I love seeing your tweets and what you put out there. Now, a really popular topic within mental health on social media is properly approaching the topic within media reporting and on television. What do you think is important to do and not do when covering the topic of mental health on TV and when reporting on issues associated with suicide and mental health?
That's a good question. It's definitely something I've been addressing a lot lately, especially because of 13 Reasons Why, and then also Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain's passing. I feel like the best thing to do on both sides, so having representation on TV and also reporting on suicide happening in real life, is to be responsible. And that's a very broad statement to make, but what I mean by that is, for TV, making sure that the scenes aren't too graphic and too triggering to the point where it's clearly for shock value and exploiting mental health. With 13 Reasons Why, there are two scenes really, or maybe actually like 3 to 4 that come to mind that just kind of cross the line, and I feel like it's not helping anyone. It's really just exploiting mental health, and in this case, first 13 Reasons Why, sexual assault. With the 13 Reasons Why controversy, there's one scene in season 1, the last episode, where the main character dies by suicide, and in the book, I know that she overdoses, and it's really just stated as that. It's not really graphically described. And then in the TV show, they go to the effort to change that, and instead of her overdosing on pills, they make her slit her wrist in the bathtub, and they show it very graphically. And as someone that has not gone through suicidal thoughts or anything like that, even seeing it myself was just, I felt disgusted that they had to go to those lengths to, I guess, try to make people care about suicide, because, I mean, I feel like they didn't even have suicide contagion in their mind when they were making that scene, and I felt like it was very irresponsible for them to show a suicide method on screen, because a lot of people that are suicidal will see something like that and say, like, oh, if this character can die by suicide this way, then how come I can't? Like, they'll try it themselves. And then with reporting on suicide, recently, because of all the passings in the past year of different high-profile people, a lot of people will say so-and-so committed suicide rather than so-and-so died by suicide. And I feel like it's better to say died by suicide. And a lot of people don't really realize, like, why committed suicide is more damaging than they think. So I read a couple articles and different posts about this, but suicide had been deemed a crime in the United States, and I know in a lot of other countries, and it still is, I think, in some states in the United States as well as other countries. It was considered a crime so that police could come into someone's house if they were attempting suicide, but since then it hasn't been a law in some states, and it isn't a crime. I understand that it became a crime in kind of a beneficial way so that someone could potentially be saved from killing themselves, but just having the whole verbiage of committed suicide makes it seem like it is a crime, and to me, suicide is anything but a crime. People that die by suicide, they can't deal with their mental illness anymore, and whatever they're going through. And I mean, I know 90% of people that die by suicide have a diagnosable mental health condition. And to see people not understand why our language matters so much, I feel is why the stigma still exists. There's a lot of people out there that have suicidal thoughts that hear someone say committed suicide and they kind of think that what's the point of asking for help if no one's going to understand? And even just people saying suicide is selfish after a high-profile suicide has the same effect. And I just feel like a lot of people need to change the way they talk about suicide because it will help the people that are still alive that have suicidal ideation if they change their language.
Yeah, and I think a really important aspect of that and something you're doing is you starting these conversations and having these conversations, even if they're extremely difficult. And there's going to be people that disagree on every single topic. I mean, even take 13 Reasons Why. I've heard other people mention that same scene at the end of season 1 of 13 Reasons Why and talk about how they had to do it graphically because if they didn't, then people would think it's easy and not understand that in some instances it's going to be painful, and to try to build that barrier to try to get them to think twice before doing it. And I've heard both sides of it. Do you agree with that outlook?
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to have a conversation. I can see why people think portraying it on screen can be beneficial, but I feel like just showing a method in itself is the most harmful thing. And I feel like there can be ways that suicide or sexual assault or any topic that's stigmatized, like suicide and sexual assault, can be portrayed without harming anyone potentially. I feel like even just explicitly saying what happened instead of showing it can have the same effect. And I mean, personally, I feel like if people need to see scenes like that to understand how difficult it is to live with a mental illness and how difficult it is to have suicidal ideation and everything, then I feel like that's kind of a problem with them. If it's taking that much for you to realize how much of a problem this is, then I don't know. Like, I really just feel like it's something that shouldn't be that way, that we need to show scenes that graphically in order for people to realize these things. There's people doing a lot of efforts out there that are making a difference and making people stay mentally healthy and not potentially triggering or making people go into a relapse.
What role does technology play in Buddy Project?
Technology plays such a big role in Buddy Project. Without Twitter and social media, Buddy Project wouldn't even exist. So even the whole idea I got wouldn't have come to my mind if I wouldn't have gone on Twitter when I was a teenager. And I really think about that a lot and how just the simple decision of me wanting to go online to talk about my favorite singers and YouTubers and stuff led me to something that I never would have thought would have been in my life. And I'm really grateful that technology has given me all the opportunities I have in my life and that it gave me the inspiration to create Buddy Project. With Buddy Project, it's really social media based. We're really expanding our in-person efforts, so we're trying to make our campus rep program a lot bigger and better for everyone so that more students can advocate for mental health on their campus. And we're also trying to do a lot of fundraising in person and donate to different mental health facilities around the United States. We really want to branch out our efforts to not just southeastern Pennsylvania, but to try to do every state eventually if possible.
You know, there's a lot of people, subject matter experts, who believe that technology is doing more harm than good. Do you believe that it's doing more good or harm to the health and well-being of the average person who uses technology?
I feel like technology does more good than harm, especially lately. I mean, although technology has given creation to things like cyberbullying and online harassment and things like that, it's also made people more aware of what mental health is and has connected them to people all around the world, including myself. There's so many people who wouldn't have become aware of suicide and mental health awareness if it wasn't for technology and social media. That knowledge has really helped a lot of people help themselves through rough times. So I feel like without the resources we have through technology, a lot of people wouldn't know kind of the warning signs of suicide or the warning signs of having a specific mental illness or just symptoms and things like that. And people also wouldn't have been able to find maybe different coping mechanisms. I know that a lot of people go on Buddy Project site to find different alternatives to self-harm. People wouldn't have been able to find things like that and just even coping mechanisms. So I know a lot of people, including people I know, will use games and other online platforms to distract themselves from their anxiety. So I just feel like technology has been given such a bad rap, but even though it has bred negative things, it has done more positive in my opinion. And I feel like a lot of people with mental illness that go online to find supportive friends would have been very isolated and wouldn't have had any connections in real life if they wouldn't have been given the connections online.
What are your future plans for Buddy Project?
Our biggest plan is to launch an app, and that will make the whole buddy pairing process more efficient and convenient for everyone. We also want to be able to improve our campus rep program so that more students can have a voice on their campus, whether they're in middle school, high school, or college, so they can speak up about mental health and really help others on their campus speak up about it too. We're also looking to expand our ambassador program, which we just launched a couple weeks ago. We want to be able to find different influencers, so different singers, bands, YouTubers, actors, anyone that has an audience that wants to use their platform for good. We want to be able to work with so that they can help us spread mental health awareness and suicide prevention, and also possibly do some cool things together involving music or videos or just any kind of creative outlet in order to spread awareness as well.
Great. And anyone that's interested in learning more about the Buddy Project, where should they go?
They can go to our website at buddy-project.org, and we have a tab on our site that is titled Get Involved. So right now we have our Canvas Rep program, and we will be accepting applications for that until the end of August, I believe. And then I'm about to post this online now, actually, but our Youth Advisory Board for 2019, the applications are open again. So if people are between the ages of 13 and 25 and they're passionate about mental health advocacy and suicide prevention, they can apply to be on our advisory board for youth, and that will run through the entire year of 2019. It'll start in January. So if you're interested in that, I would definitely apply. It's a really great opportunity to get involved directly with our organization. A campaign we're currently going to begin working on again is our Music and Mental Health campaign, which focuses on how music can help not just listeners, but the actual musician cope with their mental health and talk about mental illness. And lastly, we have our ambassador program. So if you have an audience and would like to use your platform for good, like I said previously, we'd love to work with you and possibly do some cool things together so that we can spread mental health awareness.
Fantastic. And once again, this is Michael Luchies from After School with Gabby Frost of Buddy Project. Gabby, thanks again for the conversation and for the great work you're doing with Buddy Project.
Thanks so much for inviting me. I really hope that this conversation can really help other people speak up about mental health, and I'm really glad that I was able to speak up about everything that I talked about today.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks again.